Welcome to another edition of Honest Reviews. Today we are going to be reviewing not one skate but two skates. We're going to compare them against each other. So as you know, I previously reviewed the Roces Fifth Element, and this time round we're going to be reviewing the Them 908s and comparing them with the Roces Fifth Element. I recently got a pair of these. I understand 908 Sean Darst came out about a year ago, so it doesn't really make sense to just review it on its own, especially as there's now newer, updated versions out. So I thought it'd be interesting because them rose from the ashes of Valo, which John Julio was running for Roces, and since then there's been a kind of rivalry going on with members associated with them speaking out against Roces. So I thought it'd be quite interesting if we took the two skates, put them head to head, and saw what happened. I've been skating these for months, absolutely love them, love the memory buckle, love the way that it's kind of softer on the top and it wraps around your foot, and the sole plates are absolutely incredible, good space on both sides, and they just slide well. I just thought, why not pitch the two rivals against each other and see what happens. I've wanted to try these ever since they came out. When John first introduced them, I thought the idea was really interesting. He took an old skate mold from the 90s and just basically upgraded it a little bit with better materials, a different sole plate, and that's all they really needed because skate technology doesn't have to be that complicated. Simple skates have proven throughout history to work well, but there were some things that put me off. I wasn't really a fan of the liner. I don't really like this kind of like flappy bit at the back. I wasn't really a fan of the way the lacing system was designed. Like this bit, I just don't think it's very aesthetically pleasing, especially this big open bit where you can see the liner at the bottom. However, I do get that it would have practical advantages in that it means the boot can be tighter to your foot. Another thing that stopped me wanting to skate them was the sole plate. It's very similar to a Majestic 12 sole plate, but it's also just quite thin. So you can see the sole plate there is quite narrow, and in the negative space it's really tiny. Now I've seen skaters like Alex Brosco and Jeremy Soderberg be able to do negatives in them, but those guys can pretty much do negatives in anything. I suck at negatives. I can land like 1 in 10, so I was kind of off put by that, and I just like having a bigger sole plate. I find it makes me more confident when I skate. However, John Julio is one of my favourite skaters. Ever since I've seen VG4 Puppets of Destiny, just loved his skating ever since. Every time I hear Tribe Called Quest, I think of that section. And yeah, he's probably one of my favourite skaters of all time. So I have wanted to try these and support John and his new business venture. Let's just talk about the skates. There's a couple of features about this skate that do puzzle me. For example, if you take the liner out, randomly, there's just a bit of plastic in the bottom. Now it doesn't actually offer any support because it's literally just a thin piece of plastic. And if you look inside, all the hardware is flush with the boot, so it shouldn't really affect anything to do with that. I can't see like any of those things poking through the liner in any way, which I find is a bit odd, so don't really need that. Another thing that I thought was quite odd is the two screws that you get with it. So you get one this length and you get one that is absolutely massive. I get why they've done that because the sole plate screws into the boot. So when you're screwing the frame on, you're not screwing it onto the boot, you're just screwing it onto the sole plate, which then attaches. That makes sense. And I get why you would need to make it longer because obviously it's got the heel bit. But when I did attach a frame to this and I tightened it all the way, I actually noticed that the inside plastic bit, it protruded it a little bit, it actually bent it in the way. So I've swapped out that for basically two screws this length and it works just as well. Another weird thing is, if you'll notice here with the buckle, you put it in, it's really good, goes flush, but when you try to open it again, your finger doesn't catch the back of the buckle, so in order to open it, you actually have to like pinch it at the sides and then lift it out, which, although it is quite a minor thing, it is a little bit annoying. I've tried these on with the stock liners, and as I'm a size 10 UK foot, and these are designed for a size 8 to 9 UK, being the medium shell, it was really tight and uncomfortable. Controversially, I've noticed that if I try them with the Roces Fifth Element liners, because they're a little bit thinner, I can get my foot in and it's a lot more comfortable, and it just seems like it's going to work better. So, by the magic of editing, we now have a full setup. I have kitted them out with the Roces Fifth Element liner, which you can see here, and I actually think it works quite well with the boot. Like, the liner doesn't come up too high, get a nice carry strap, which you didn't have before, and I think it looks quite good. Finished them off by using my old Create Original frames. I've got some wicked ABEX 7 bearings in there and the Eugen Ennen undercover wheels. I'm excited to try them. I think with the new liners I'm going to find them a lot more comfortable and hopefully be able to skate them for a lot longer. The plan is to skate these for a couple of sessions in a skate park, because it's now winter in Scotland and the weather is absolutely awful, and see how they go. And I'm very excited about getting my massive size 10 boat feet in size medium shells. Next time I see you, I'll have skated these for a little while and I'll be able to give you some feedback on what I think and how they compare to the Roces Fifth Elements. Okay?
And we're back. So, I've been skating them Sean Darst 908s for about 3 weeks now. That's maybe 4 sessions at an indoor park. And I know I said I didn't really like the look of the skate when I first got it, but the truth is, skating it and having it on my feet, I did actually appreciate it a lot more, mainly because the shell is so small looking on my foot. I loved the way it felt. I was really surprised by, first of all, how light they were. Like, they are probably one of the lightest skates in the market. It was ridiculous, especially in comparison to the Fifth Elements that I was riding beforehand, because they just felt so much faster to skate around with. Another thing I was really surprised with was the energy transfer. It felt really easy to pick up speed. I've seen old videos of the first generation of these skates where people are doing royales, and this part of the boot here is basically buckling, and people are saying, oh, it makes royales easy, but other people are also saying it compromises the integrity of the boot and makes it less stable. These definitely do not have that issue. I know that because the first few times I did royales, I kept kind of almost going into frontside, and I had to actually push my foot down and bend my knee more to get it so that the boot would touch. Another thing I noticed is with the slimmer sole plate, I was missing top sides quite a lot to start with. However, it took maybe an hour or so just to get used to having the slimmer sole plate, and then after that it was fine. Sole plate's actually really good, really easy to get used to, totally familiar with it now and really enjoy it. Pretty fast as well. Another thing I noticed was the backslide plate is like weirdly fast. Whenever I did royales or farves or savannahs, because I'm a massive fan of unity based tricks, it felt like it was faster on the backslide plate than it was in the sole. I'm gonna guess because this is a little bit smaller and there's a smaller surface area that it slides faster because there's less of it touching the actual obstacle you're grinding, if that makes sense. So because there's less contact with the surface area, it might help it slide faster. I don't know. But yeah, the main takeaways that I got from it were there was a lot of support in the cuff, which is great. That's one of the things I look for in a skate. That was quite stiff. Incredibly light, fit really well to the skate, and the energy transfer was absolutely incredible. There were some weird quirks that I noticed with this skate as well. So as I mentioned in the unboxing, I found that these bolts were surprisingly long, in fact just unnecessarily long, and the back one is like that length, and when you tighten it, it bends the inside of the boot. I just swapped those out for normal bolts and they were fine. However, I noticed when I was skating them that this one on the inside was actually starting to hurt a little bit after maybe an hour or two of skating. I took them off to see where the pressure point would be, and I discovered that this bolt was tightened so much that the actual head of the bolt was coming through the other side of the receiver and actually poking into the liner and had left a mark inside the liner. So I'm willing to bet that that is what was actually hurting my ankle. Now I just loosened this a little bit, just like a couple of millimeters, so that it was flush with the receiver on the inside, and it did the job. Alternatively, you can also get adhesive padding that you can buy in pretty much any pharmacy, like Boots or whatever. People normally put them in shoes to make them more comfortable. You can just put that on the inside to cover it, and that would take that problem away. So the big question is, how do these skates compare to the Fifth Elements? Well, here's the Fifth Elements here. Aesthetically, I would say I do prefer the look of the Fifth Elements. They've got that classic 90s silhouette that's just absolutely incredible. I do prefer that to this. However, that's not to say that this is in any way an ugly skate. There are far more ugly skates on the market being produced at the moment. I just do prefer the look of this one. Out the box, I would say that the Fifth Element has a better liner, which is why I'm using the Fifth Element liner in the 908. The Them liner is good. However, if you're at the top end of the shell size, it does feel a little bit tight and restrictive. I imagine it's much better for people who are at the lower end of the shell size. So if you pick these up and you're an 8, for example, I'd imagine they'd fit you well, but if you're a 9, you might find them a bit tight. Another thing that Roces beats over them is the memory buckle, but I would say that Roces beat pretty much every skate manufacturer when it comes to that. I don't understand why every company doesn't use this system, because it's incredible. I would also say that I prefer the sole plate on these. It's just wider. I like the big, wide groove on them. Out of the box, I would say that I prefer the Roces Fifth Element. They do have a better liner, and the break-in time for them is a lot quicker. You can just put them on and you instantly feel at ease with them straight away. Whereas these do take a little bit of patience to get used to the different feeling. However, I would say that these are a better performing skate. They're lighter, they have better energy transfer, so they're better for skating fast, and the cuff definitely has more support than the Roces Fifth Element one. Also, you'll have noticed that a lot of people who skate the Them 908 shell skate them with aftermarket liners. They generally tend to go for things like Rain, My Fit Second Skin, and for most people who are wanting to go at the higher end of the budget, they'll go with the Intuition liners. I have tried these during the week with Intuition liners and they feel absolutely incredible. With the Fifth Element liner, they feel okay, but they still feel like quite tight for being a size 10 UK in a medium shell. I tried a size medium Intuition liner with this exact shell and it felt incredible. It felt like I had a lot of space in it. It didn't feel like my foot was really tight in there. In summary, if you want to skate with a really comfortable liner and a great sole plate, I would advise going for the Roces Fifth Element. However, if you're like me and you have a bigger foot and you want or need a light skate and you want something that's going to be responsive, something that's going to offer you a lot of support, I would recommend going for the Them skate. And if you can afford it, getting aftermarket liners for them. The liner makes the world of difference to them. I'm sure there's plenty of people who can skate them with a stock liner and enjoy them just as much. But for me, going forward, I'll be sticking with the Them skate. I'm going to invest in some Intuition liners with them and I'm just absolutely loving using them. I really enjoyed skating the Fifth Elements. I thought they were an incredible skate and I'm actually surprised that I do like the Them skate this much. Can't wait to keep sessioning them and just enjoy using them. I hope that's been helpful. If you have any questions relating to either of these skates or there's anything you're unsure about, just let me know in the comments. I'm happy to answer them. If you disagree with anything in the review, again, let me know. Happy to discuss any of that.